Greetings, everyone. It's Hobo Yeti, and looks like the walk has come to an end. I have I was outside of town. I don't know. I had a good day of walking, about 12 miles, and felt good about it. Had a little bit of chafe, but otherwise I was feeling good. I had made some adjustments to the cart, and I ended up in a stealth spot on the side of the road. And but getting in there, like when you go to the side of the road into a wooded spot, a lot of times you're having to drag your cart over like fallen logs and things like that. And it looks like the axle snapped on one of the wheels just right off, so that there's no way to reaffix it. And it's been 150 miles, not that much at all. I mean, I've just gotten into the shape where I could walk 12 miles a day, which is sad, kind of ironic in its own way. Um, but I have, um, anyway, even if I got replacements for the axle, you know, if I'm having to replace one every 150, 200 miles, that's ridiculous. I can't carry all those axles just for that. And since I'm broke and I'm homeless, I don't really have any other choices. So I loaded up the pack and I trimmed everything down. I trimmed all of my gear down to a significant extent. I would say my gear is probably around 30 pounds, maybe 35. But with water, ended up being 40, 45, or 50. Um, and my first day of packing, you know, packing out of there, backpacking, I made 5 miles and it hurt the entire way. I mean, yeah, the hills play a big part, but um, you know, the muscles I had gotten used to were in my legs, and they were good for, pushing a cart, just walking, not with 40 or 50 pounds of extra weight on your back. And so I finally made it back to town, South Hill here, yesterday, and I've just been um, recuperating. I actually need to go into town today, get some more water and all that. My new plan is to wait out the weather for a little bit and then see what happens then. Like I went through my backpack. My backpack was not an ultralight backpack, just a regular heavy backpack. So I went through it when I was outside of town. When I was, started out my when I basically took most of my gear and like all my backups, and I put them in contractor bags and kind of semi buried them, so that maybe down the road I could go back to them, and resume the walk, or at least have that stuff somewhere nearby. I don't expect that's going to happen. I figure it's just a way. It's like throwing away money that I had that I can't use anymore because the cart's dead. Um, but I went through like my backpack and I cut out all the big heavy plastic pieces that were in there and got it down to about a 2 pound pack. Um, I went through all my gear, you know, just everything. I went through I have a puff jacket. I cut the sleeves off because I just need the core temperature warmth. I went through my sleeping bag and the top portion. Uh, like the foot box and about up to just covering my stomach. Uh, you know, I still have the fill in there, but then the fill that was used for the rest of it, I took that out. I just yanked it out, so it's just nylon. My invoker pad I cut down to about a 2.5 foot by 15-inch piece, that I. So when it gets down into like the 40s, I'm able to tolerate it. I can sleep somewhat comfortably, um, and so I have these things, but they're weighing me down. Really, honestly, they're just weighing me down in a big way. Um, and it's not that much weight. I'm thinking I could probably save about 7 or 8 pounds maybe, by getting rid of the jacket, the sleeping bag, the invoker pad. Um, you know, but I don't think that the problem is water. when you're backpacking. The great thing about a cart is you can carry 5-6 gallons of water. You can have a week's worth of water. And that was more of a concern when walking across um, you know the western part of the United States. But for me now, what I'm looking at is like I walked 5 miles the other day, and then I walked 7 miles the next day, which was better, but it was torturous, really. And yes, I'll build up my back muscles and stuff like that, but it it was not fun. So even if I'm making 7 miles a day or 10, it's really just not enough for the water that I will be able to carry, because I was carrying 3 or 4 liters, a gallon of water, and that 3 or 4 liters gets me about an entire day. So that gets me, uh, a 24-hour period. Um, but if that's all I can do, a lot of these towns down here are spaced out 15 miles apart, or at least stores, right? So I wouldn't be able to, it's just not doable. Um, so I'm in South Hill. I'm going to wait out the weather and see what happens. I may continue the walk, just kind of depending on how things go. Or, um, you know, South Hill is just it's a quaint town. It's small, but it's got like a Walmart and some hotels and stuff. It's pretty, it's quaint, but it doesn't really have a whole lot of services for if I'm going to be homeless, right? Um, so I'm thinking about somehow figuring it out and walking or hitching uh, to Raleigh, Durham, which is about 75 miles south of here. It's a bigger city. I could go to Richmond. I guess that might be a little closer, but I've just never been a fan of Richmond. Um, so I'm thinking about once the weather gets better and I'm able to, lose some of this weight in my pack, so I can carry maybe a little bit more water. Um, then I'll head down there and I'll continue the Hobo Road, but it just won't be um, it won't be a walk across America Hobo Road. It's just going to be, and I'm not sure how much I'll travel. I've traveled most of my life, so I'll probably continue that. But even if I just decide to, I may just decide to try to get into a shelter or try to live in a tent somewhere in town, and dealing with that. I can do videos on that. Uh, a pretty difficult thing for people that are homeless is to get back on their feet. It's difficult. And the reason for that is, like a lot of shelters, they don't really have openings, and the staff and a lot of them are pretty terrible. So a lot of people, like myself, would just prefer to live, in their own camp spot. The thing is, there's a lot of challenges to that. Like, you don't have any money to do laundry. You don't have any, you know, um, your nose blind to a lot of things. A lot of, um, you know, your clothes, bathing. That's can be tumultuous, and always worrying about. The thing about homelessness is, in a lot of ways, it's associated with hopelessness. And the reason for that is, like let's say I've got my tent, I've got my sleeping bag or whatever, my quilt, and I've got some basic stuff. But if that stuff gets stolen or taken or whatever, what happens then? Like, then I'm desolate, right? I have nothing, um, and so it's like it's a war of attrition almost, of gaining little gains little by little. Yes, I can work a job, but like I don't have a place to come home and take a shower. I can do a hobo bath, but and that's better than nothing, but it's not always the best, right? And like I can't like wash my clothes every day. Uh, so there are challenges ahead of me. I feel, and the other thing, like I have my depression, and that is difficult to deal with and manage. But the key, I think, is to maybe finding some sort of work that I can do that I can be happy with. I'm not sure what that is, that's not going to cause me pain or depression. I don't know. But, I've got, you know, Jesus as my guide. Um, he keeps me from uh, embracing the despair that's in me a lot of times. And so, that's my path, and gives me hope and keeps me away from those desolate thoughts. But yeah, so this is. I probably won't do any videos for just a little bit, or maybe I will. Depending on what strikes my fancy. There's it's a whole paradigm shift of you know living on the road in rural areas and finding a camp spot versus being homeless uh, in a small or a big city. It's a paradigm shift. There's a different way to look at things. Uh, that there are better, there's pluses and minuses, pros and cons. Like for instance, like if I'm if I'm walking through town and there's a library there, I can stop there for an hour or two, but I can't stay there all day, and I can't charge my devices there, right? Like, um, I've got to go get out and get a camp spot. Whereas if I'm in town and I'm homeless, I can just kind of, uh, leave my campsite spot and then go spend the entire day at the library, charge all my devices, get free Wi-Fi, maybe do some reading or whatever, and have access to their computers, that sort of thing. So it is a paradigm shift, and it's a change. I'm not sure. I've been known to change my mind before, but we'll see how things go. Um, I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that the future is going to bring me. It's going to, be the right road this time. Hope Yeti signing off.